Mike Howard. I teach up at the university, and I'm going to just make a few introductory remarks on behalf of the Scholar Strategy Network, which is the principal sponsor of Nick Carnes' visit here in Maine, along with co-sponsors, including the Eastern Maine Labor Council here, Peace and Justice Center of Eastern Maine, League of Women Voters, I believe, is co-sponsoring, and Socialist Marxist Studies at the university tomorrow. Just a few words about the Scholar Strategy Network. It's a network of fairly recent origin, the mission of which is to bring leading scholars together to share their work in a very accessible format on issues of public policy, and to get it, to write in a sort of non-academic style, get things into op-eds, up on websites, in the hands of congressional staffers and the like. And we have a number of regional networks, including a very vibrant one here in Maine, has nearly 20 members. There are regional networks from here to Hawaii, and we're very happy to have on our panel tonight the co-director of the Research Triangle chapter of the Scholar Strategy Network, Professor Nick Carnes of Duke University. He is a professor of public policy at Duke, and has a forthcoming book called White Collar Government, The Hidden Role of Class in Economic Policy Making, which examines how the shortage of people from the working class in American legislature skews the policy-making process towards outcomes that are more in line with the upper class's economic interests. He's also currently working on the factors that discourage working class citizens from holding political office and the programs that could help to address long-standing inequalities in the class composition of American policy-making institutions. Joining him on the panel will be Nicole Brown, who is a Penobscot Valley community organizer with the Maine People's Resource Center. She's been engaged in Maine politics for over 7 years. Her work experience includes nonprofit management, fundraising, relational and electoral organizing. And throughout her career, she has worked to help progressive working people to state and federal offices. Nicole is an Emerge Maine alumna, an extensive training program dedicated to electing Democratic women to office. Nicole has designed and executed multiple trainings on how to run for office in Maine. Also on the panel will be John Hansen, who has served as the Bureau of Labor Education's director from 1978 until his retirement in 2005. Prior to his appointment to the directorship, he served on the staff of the Bureau for 6 years. In 2005, he was named as the executive director of the Maine State Building and Construction Trades Council, a position he held until 2011. While at the University of Maine, he co-authored a number of works, including A Worker's Guide to Labor Law, A Guide for Local Union Leaders, and a National Guide to Employment Law. John did his undergraduate work in economics and graduate studies in law and education, served as a consultant to the National Endowment for the Humanities, the United States Senate Subcommittee on Labor and Education, and was named Labor Liaison for the White House during visits to Maine by Presidents Ford and Carter, and was a technical advisor to the public television series Maine in the USA. Also on the panel is Troy Jackson, a logger from Maine, who serves as the Democratic State Senator for Maine's 35th District, representing much of the northern Maine, including towns of Fort Kent, Madawaska, and Van Buren. He was first elected to the Maine Senate in 2008, after serving from 2000 to 2006 in the Maine House of Representatives. In December 2012, he was elected Assistant Majority Leader of the State Senate and became elected Majority Leader of the Maine Senate this past summer. And as I think most of you know, he has announced that he's running for the Maine 2nd Congressional District, which, like Michaud, is going to be vacating to run for the governor. And moderating the panel will be Bill Murphy. Many of you know, has been working in the field of labor education since obtaining his undergraduate and graduate degrees from the University of Maine. He joined the staff of the university's Bureau of Labor Education in 1974. During his time at the Bureau of Labor Education, Bill has taught workplace safety and health, labor and employment law, and labor relations. He also has worked as a researcher and was the director of the Bureau from 2000 2005 until his retirement in 2012. So I'll turn it over to the panel and to Bill. So,
thanks, Mike. Okay, we have a very tight time frame here, unfortunately, but we also want to facilitate as much discussion, not only among the panelists, but particularly among you good activists who have shown up here this evening. And along those lines, I'd like to kick it off first with our panel discussion, and namely, we're asking Nicole and John and Troy to each provide their perspective on why they think it is so important for working class people to serve in public office. Nicole, why don't you lead off?
All right. Yeah, so I'm Nicole. I live in Orrington. I work downtown Bangor. I think it is really important for more working class folks to run for public office at the state and federal level and local levels, because the majority of people in our communities are working class people, and when we see policies at the federal level or at the state level that we're not being represented. I'm a working class person, so I come from a working class background. I think there are things that it's important for our elected bodies to actually represent the community. So in terms of women and working class people, it's important for them to step up and lead and serve, because right now most people who run for office or have the means to run for office are wealthy and come from a background that doesn't always result in public policy that isn't representative and good for the majority of our communities.
Want me to go next?
Sure.
All right. Well, I'm going to paraphrase, but Bobby Kennedy once said that we ought to all know and understand that the captains of industry and the wealthiest people in the country were not only influencing public policy and our laws, but hell, they were making it. And that's a reason for us to be more involved. And I should start out by just saying that in Maine, we've had a long and very proud, I would say, history of working people serving in elective office, and it's gone in waves. We were talking about this just before we got started, and there were whole periods when there was a real presence of working class people serving in legislature, serving on boards and commissions. We had a socialist run for governor in the state of Maine in the 1900s, Norman Lerman, backed by the Working People's Political Party in the state of Maine. So there is a very rich history. And a more contemporary history started with major strikes in the early 1980s over in the western part of the state in Rumford with Boise Cascade. People went out on strike. And because the laws had dramatically changed from what they had been up and through the 60s, the paper company was able to hire without any recourse whatsoever strike breakers and armed guards to intimidate the people who wanted to go be on strike and prevent the strike breakers from going in. And that was all because of change in legislation. Up until about 1980, coincidentally the time when Ronald Reagan was elected, I'm sure that had no bearing on it whatsoever, long coattails. But Maine had the distinction of having the second best workers' compensation system in the country. Ohio was first, and theirs was ranked first because it was a state-run workers' compensation system without the insurance industry being involved. There's a lesson there, but take it as you will. And a lot of that, including the fact that we had a ban on prison labor in the state. You couldn't use prisoners to do the work that people ordinarily would do for pay. We had the state seal was granted by the legislature to be used by then the AFL in the state, and after 1956 the Maine AFL-CIO. And that holds today. That seal is grandfathered as part of the logo, if you will, of the Maine AFL-CIO. These are just very small examples of the kind of influence that working people had in this state for a long while, until, as I said, about 1980, and things started to change. So we'll get into more of why that changed and what's happened since. But there was a very brief period right after that strike in Rumford and then in UMaine, which was famous, and it spread throughout the country, where more and more working people ran for the legislature. It was shortly after that Mike Michaud, our congressman from the 2nd District, ran. And it was allowed to run because unions negotiated into their contracts provisions that would protect their jobs if they were elected to public office. Not all unions did that, but the paper workers were very influential back then, and they were able to successfully negotiate. It meant giving up other things. If you know about collective bargaining, it's a process of give and take. But there were provisions that if somebody in the mill ran for office and was successful, that accommodations would be made, reasonable accommodations would be made, so that they could serve their terms and represent the people in their districts, and without fear of any kind of recrimination or sanction. So I'm just going to stop there because I think this is a very important discussion, especially on the heels of Citizens United, when it seems more than ever that a working class person, a person of limited means, has yeoman work in order to stand to get elected for almost anything in this day and age. And so I hope we can turn that around. And with that, I'll stop.
Thank you. Thank you for those comments. Our next panel speaker is Troy Jackson.
Well, thank you, Bill. I appreciate it. And thank you for having me go after John, who always does such a great job and it's so hard to keep up with. I want to thank everyone for being here tonight. I really appreciate the opportunity. I think that it's important for people to, working class people, to be in the legislature, because obviously they're the people that know how laws and policies are going to affect them. That's what drove me to run for politics back, I think, in 2000. Had never been to Augusta beforehand, but was really frustrated with the process. I thought, I live way up in Allagash, which I think that's 5 hours from here, so we hope to have you there one day. But I thought that because I was so remote and so far away, I thought that that's why things were the way they were. We just were so out of the way. But, we had some labor issues in that area. Actually, we had labor issues in that area for a long time. My grandfathers talked about the same problems that I'm having today. But what I found out after staging some of those labor disputes is that the problems weren't because we were so far away. The problems were there because the people in Augusta knew and didn't want to help us. There was people that were much better funded, that had offices in the Augusta area, that were advocating to keep things the way they were. And that's why I think that more than anything, I was just infuriated with the process, because there was no one there that was speaking for loggers. Since that time, I've met people that are lobstermen, farmers, teachers, all talking about the same problems that I had, in different occupations, but certainly the same as theirs. And what I come to understand is that we're all working so hard to feed our families, to get by, to pay the bills, that you get in a little cocoon and you don't even see the people alongside of you that are having trouble. And that's why it's important for people to stand up and be able to come to Augusta and advocate for their positions. I think the thing that shocked me the most after I got elected into the legislature in 2003 was the lobby that was there. I always thought that Washington, that's where the lobby is, and that's where Big Pharma and all that is getting the things they want. But my first session in Augusta, I was just amazed at the amount of lobbyists that was there and the money that was being spent on bills. And you look around and there's very few people that are like myself that are there advocating for their positions. You know, they're definitely, the labor unions are definitely working to do whatever they can, but, you know, they're, you know, small compared to the lobby on the other side. And, you know, I see, you know, this past, in the 125th legislature, for the first time in my 10 years, you know, we started having everyday people show up to the State House to advocate. I mean, they were so infuriated with what was going on. We had great big groups of people in the halls chanting and stuff like that, and I thought that was great. I thought that's the way the democracy was supposed to work. And for the first time, so, you know, I am someone that, you know, it's not any secret that I don't agree with Governor LePage. He obviously doesn't agree with me. But, you know, the one good thing that I've seen come out of the 125th legislature is there seems to be more people that are willing to come to Augusta now and fight for what they believe in. And for me, that is really great. It's something that, you know, I know it's hard for working class people to take a day off. That's, and you know, we'll probably get into that, but, you know, the legislature operates during the work week, so people, you know, they're going to lose a day's pay or 2 days' pay or whatever it takes if they come to the legislature. But, you know, in the 125th, you know, we had health care laws that were changed and made it hard for working class people. We had retirement, you know, state retirement for teachers and state workers that were changed. And you know, if you're not someone that's a worker, you probably don't care about those things. I mean, but even if you're not a state retiree or a teacher, what you got to understand is then it's Social Security. So you know, you're going to get affected somewhere along the line if you know, you're not helping those people out. And then you know, unemployment, another thing that you know, we've seen them argue that, oh, there's so much fraud and unemployment and all that, but all they wanted to do was make it harder for people that get laid off for no fault of their own, have a harder time to be able to get unemployment. So in the end, I think it's critical for working class people to be there, because they're the only ones that are pushing back against the well-funded people that are there to try and make it easier for corporations to squeeze workers. And you know, that's, you know, why I ran for legislature, and that's why I'm there now, and that's why I seem to get under the governor's skin.
Thank you, Troy, and we're glad you're under the governor's skin. Even though I'm not supposed to. I'm only supposed to go I can jump in once in a while and be part of it. Okay. And with that, I'd like to, I'm most pleased also to introduce Professor Nick Carnes, who is, as Mike pointed out, is a professor of public policy at Duke University. And he's going to share with us now some of the highlights of his research, which focuses on the structure and the shortage of working class people in Maine, in state legislators.